Welcome to the Biblical Leadership at Work Mid-Month Deep Dive. In today's bonus episode, our guest hosts revisit one of our most popular interviews. If this quick recap inspires you, then be sure to check out the full episode for even more great insights.
All right, so get this. Today we're doing a deep dive on this guy, leads food safety for, get this, 177,000 people.
Wow.
But here's the thing. Found his faith in a, pretty unexpected way. Scott King, that's who we're diving into today.
Yeah, and it's quite the story. Scott, he's the VP of Food Safety at Science, and this is like the biggest company of its kind in the whole U.S.
Wasn't always a man of faith, though,
Not
know?
Really.
Yeah, in fact, he used to call himself an atheist.
Hold on, you say Science is the largest in the U.S.? Like, how big are we talking?
Oh, we're talking massive, 450 sites, so yeah, definitely a leadership heavyweight.
Yeah.
But, and this is what makes his story so interesting, is he goes from this self-proclaimed, science guy to finding this, deep Christian faith, and he's in his 30s when this happens. It really is something, how life can just kind of take these unexpected turns, and the interview you shared really drives that home. So he's like this rising star food industry, and then, bam, something changes. Yeah. What was it? What happened?
All right, so picture this. Rainy evening, Florida. Scott and his family, they're on vacation. He decides, I'm going to open this Bible, lands on Proverbs.
Okay.
Now, he'll be the first to tell you he wasn't looking for, some divine revelation, maybe just like some practical wisdom, edge even. But what he found, way more profound.
Okay, you got me. What happened?
The words, it was like they jumped off the page. I mean, he'd read these verses before, but all of a sudden they just hit him with this undeniable force of truth.
Wow.
He even says, out loud, this is truth.
Wow.
Tears welling up, which is, interesting because by his own admission, Scott wasn't like a crier. This wasn't just a thought, it was this visceral experience.
Yeah.
Shifted his whole perspective.
Talk about a powerful aha moment. For anyone listening, maybe on a similar journey, maybe wrestling with their own faith, or maybe coming to it later in life that really resonates, those quiet moments, you're most open when the biggest breakthroughs happen. But okay, finding faith is one thing. How do you actually live it? I mean, how do you weave it into the daily grind, especially with a super high pressure job?
And that's what I find so compelling about Scott's approach. It's intentional, so intentional. He sees his calendar almost as this sacred text. It reflects his priorities. So Sundays are non-negotiable. Church, Sunday school, that's how he recharges, reconnects with his faith, community.
Setting the tone for the week.
Yeah, exactly. And then throughout the week, he makes time. Scripture readings every day, shoots for 4 or 5 chapters a day. But here's the thing. He doesn't, cram it all in at once, spaces it out. A chapter in the morning, maybe one after exercising, another after lunch. Consistency. He understands that's key.
Which, let's be honest, makes total sense, even from a purely scientific perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
The whole idea of spaced repetition, how it helps solidify learning and memory. He's basically applying these principles to his spiritual growth, which is kind of brilliant.
Absolutely. It's a testament to his, systematic approach, not just in work, but in his faith, too. And speaking of systems, his prayer routine, it's unique.
Okay, got to hear about the Psalm of the Day. What's that all about?
He's got this plan. Assigns specific psalms to each day of the month. So say it's February 1st. He'd focus on Psalms 131, 61, 91, and 121, reads them all, then chooses the one that, really speaks to him that day and uses that in his prayers.
That's amazing. Using the Psalms in such a deliberate, personal way. And it just, it reminds me how timeless those texts are. Centuries, people have been turning to Psalms for comfort, for guidance, words to express those deep emotions to God, whether it's joy, gratitude, or even doubt, despair.
Yeah.
But it also speaks to Scott's commitment to having that system. He doesn't just hope to grow spiritually. He puts in the work. Day after day. And it doesn't stop there. Feedback. He seeks it out in every area of his life, constantly checking in. Wife, mentors, and not just work, his personal life too, making sure his actions match his values.
It's true.
That level of self-awareness, especially in his position, that's huge. It'd be easy to get caught up in success, but he's grounded.
It speaks to his humility.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really, that humility, it comes through in his leadership too. You're sharing that story about the plant manager.
Oh, yeah.
Really shows how he learned to balance that drive he has with, how important relationships are.
Yeah, that story. So we've got Scott, young guy, ambitious, laser focused on this project. He needs the plant manager's input, but this guy's schedule is jam-packed.
Right.
Now me, I probably send a follow-up email, maybe 2, and call it a day, but not Scott.
No.
This guy takes persistence to a whole new level. We're talking voicemails, texts, even waiting outside the guy's office.
Oh, wow. I can only imagine what the plant manager was thinking.
Right. But in the end, he gets the meeting, but he also gets this, pretty important lesson out of it, too. Plant manager pulls him aside, gives him some direct feedback.
Yep.
And I don't think every leader would do that, see it as a teachable moment.
Absolutely. Speaks volumes about creating a culture where feedback is valued, even when it's tough to hear.
And it was huge for Scott. He realized it's not just about what you get done, but it's how you bring people along with you. And from that point on, he made it his mission to not just get those results, but to keep his team. Playing the long game. Success is a marathon, not a sprint.
That's right.
And speaking of marathons, his commitment to one-on-one meetings with his team every single week.
Oh, yeah.
That's something else.
I can see why that stood out to you. It's more than just checking in, right? It's about really believing in those relationships. He's not just managing projects, he's investing in people.
Yeah, and he's intentional about how he structures them, too. He actually encourages his team, hey, share what's going on in your life. Personal, professional, doesn't matter. He wants to know what makes them tick, what they're aiming for.
It's great.
That kind of care, that attention, it builds a sense of belonging, feeling valued for who you are, not just what you're producing. And this whole commitment to mentoring, guiding others, doesn't just stay at work either. He was talking about how he meets with this young man from his church every week just to have coffee, offer guidance.
So
That's putting it into action.
it shows you he gets it. Leadership is about using your influence to help others. Whether that's leading a team at work or mentoring someone, it's about having a good impact wherever you are.
And that brings us to, I thought, one of the most insightful things he talked about. He talks about this lack of humility in leadership today, and not just in the church, outside of it, too.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I found that fascinating.
It is. And he sees this drive for power and recognition in the secular world.
Yeah.
Leaders, they're focused on titles, perks. It's like they're more concerned with being served than serving others.
Yeah.
But then he talks about what he sees with some Christian leaders.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
Yes. The overplaying humility part,
Yeah.
where they're almost shying away from the limelight, being a servant leader, which in theory is great.
Right.
But it's almost like they're not leading with passion, with that fire. Maybe they're holding back from stepping fully into what they could be.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between humility and zeal. You can be humble, serve, listen, empower others,
Yeah.
but also be passionate, driven, willing to speak up, challenge things when you need to.
Right.
He talks about lighting a fire under people, inspiring them to be their best.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
And doing it all with love. I mean, he even talked about praying for his colleagues, hoping they come to know the Lord. That's next level. It's about weaving your faith into everything you do, not keeping it separate. It's that genuine desire to lift others up, see them thrive. That's what makes his leadership different. Makes you think, what kind of impact do I want to have on the people around me? Easy to get caught up in our own stuff. Our goals, our to-do lists, we forget just being there for others,
It's huge. And I think Scott's story, it really brings that home. It's not about waiting for that promotion or, some big opportunity to lead. It's about just showing up with intention, being genuine,
Yeah.
just like he does.
So someone's listening right now thinking, okay, I get it, but how do I actually do that? What would you tell them?
I'd say start small.
Yeah.
Find those little but significant ways you can make a difference. Maybe there's a coworker you could mentor, someone who just needs someone to listen. Be there for them.
Oh, I love that. And it makes me think of something else Scott said. He hopes that at the end of it all, people remember him, not just for what he achieved, but for his love for Christ and how much he cared for others.
Yeah.
Good reminder, leadership isn't about titles or awards. It's about the legacy we leave behind, how we treated people.
Absolutely. And sometimes the biggest impact, it comes from just being present for the people right there in front of you, your family, really listening to your kids, being a part of your community.
Yeah.
Those are all acts of leadership, the way of life, not a position or a title. Starts with that question, what impact do I want to make?
Such a powerful place to end on. This deep dive into Scott King's story. It's given us a lot to think about, from, the science lab to leadership, all with this thread of faith running through it.
It's a good reminder that leadership, you can find it anywhere. And the best leaders, they lead with strength, but with humility too. They're driven by helping others.
That's right. And on that note, we'll leave you all with those big questions. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the life and leadership lessons of Scott King. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making a difference wherever you are.